All right, looks like we're live. We have no eyeballs, so anyway, we'll give it a minute. Just want to say hi to everybody out there in Facebook and YouTube land, and let an eyeball come in. And um, today, Cindy, thank you for jumping on with me. I know Cindy as Cindy Lou. We go to the same one of the same haunts in Greensboro together. And last week I did a live stream like this with my friend Mike Doyle, and we talked about just the pros and cons of working from home, some of the things we like, some of the things that are tough to overcome. And while we were on there, Cindy made a great comment about setting boundaries. Like when you're at work, and when you're home. But if work is home and home is work, where do you draw the line? So, Cindy, I'm going to let you go ahead, tell everybody a little bit about who you are, what you do, and your work from home experience, and then we'll get started.
Sure, yeah. So speaking of boundaries, my dog, they don't understand them as well. So if you see a little tail fly through or paw on the floor, sorry about that. Yeah, so I know Jay from a little kava bar in Greensboro where I would go and work. We connected that way. I work in the software industry with manufacturing companies and distribution companies to streamline their business process, and I'm not technical at all. I am on the customer support side. I like helping people and I like being available, which can get a little tricky when you're trying to set boundaries, right? So I've been working from home for the past 2 years. I would do it occasionally if I was sick or broke an ankle, right? I really got full-time remote 2 years ago, and I don't know if I could ever go back to going into an office unless you convinced me I had to be there to do my job. So I learned a lot of pros and cons, more pros than cons for sure. But I've realized that working from home means you have to stay responsible for some things, for sure. And even means setting boundaries with your boss, right? So with that said, I don't know where you want to let this conversation go or not, but yeah, I was thinking earlier today about what I wanted to talk about, and the first thing was setting boundaries by letting people know where you're at and when you're available, and those expectations with everybody as needed. Whether that's blocking off time on your calendar, or letting your team know that you're welcome to send me emails, but there's going to be a 24-hour response time. I see a lot of folks maybe complaining they get emails at 3 a.m. but have never once changed their notification settings, right? And if I want to work late or early and email you, then that's on you to set that boundary that you won't get it. So I don't know if you want to pull anything from that or not.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. So you said a couple of things that were really critical, and today's a good day to talk about boundaries. I know you had just jumped up, forced your way off a meeting, and today actually my wife is off of work. She works at the hospital, so it's a much needed, much prayed for day off. But and so we have our daughter home with us, and so you know two things that stood out. One was using Google Calendar to kind of really block my day. I tell people all the time I have a booking software, and I'm like, I just send people a link. I'm like, if you want to talk to me, you need to use this link and book a time. I'm like, I know we're friends. I know I know you're my client. I know you pay me lots of money. I know this, I know that. But please, if you don't use this link, there's a chance I'll double book myself. I'll be late. Something's going to happen. So I always tell people, use this booking link. It syncs with my Google Calendar, and I live and die by my Google Calendar. Like, I look at my calendar every morning, and that's what I know what I have to do that day. And that's how I keep myself organized. So that's one thing I took away. The other thing I took away was, and this is probably where a lot of people are struggling right now, and I really want to hear your thoughts on it. Like, for instance, today, my wife's been so good. Like, we have a 4-year-old. Well, she doesn't understand that she sees daddy, so daddy must be home, right? Like, she doesn't understand daddy's working, and I can't pay much attention to her today. So that's a boundary in itself. And so my wife is really good to say, daddy's not here, daddy's working, leave him alone, daddy's working, let's go do this, let's go do something else, let's do this. But it's really hard when family's home, because you're like, I'm sitting here in my house But that doesn't mean that I'm in daddy husband do these chores mode. I'm in daddy's got work to do mode, and I can't be doing other stuff. It's if I left the house, I wouldn't be here. So we have to pretend that I left the house.
Right.
So talk about that.
So interesting you brought that up. So Tom, my boyfriend, has a 2-year-old, and sometimes they just make a lot of noises, right? It's not even that they're being bad or obnoxious. They're just blurbing. And part of me realized that when he was home and I was working from home, I would forget to lock the door, or I would forget to, make sure that I wouldn't be interrupted, right? And then I go, gosh, like that's totally my fault that he just came in here. But other times, given the recent events, I've been a little bit more open about it, but that's another boundary that maybe doesn't look like a boundary. Is I didn't sign up to work from home to pretend that I'm in an office and I'm wearing a suit. Like, I think that's part of what makes some people more relatable, is like, I'm here in my kitchen and my kid needs juice right now, right? And using that as like a way to network or connect with somebody if it comes up. The goal is to not have the kid begging for juice while you're on a sales call. But when it does come up, I laugh at myself, and just like I would if the doorbell rang, or my dog barked at some noise outside, and letting them know, like, I'm a person and I'm not going to pretend to be a machine that has no hiccups in their life.
Right.
But it is about letting, if you've got a partner at home, or if you're working from the kava bar and your friends are used to coming up to you and saying, hey, letting them know, even if it's through a quick message, like, just saw you come in on a call. Don't, people don't know what they don't know, and the lines can get really blurred when you work remote. So part of me tries to make sure I prevent any interruptions if they're controllable, but if they come up, I laugh at it and I use it as a way to connect with somebody.
Your timing is about to be impeccable.
It's perfect, but and honestly, I don't know if this is the right place to say this, but if you get upset with me for that, I don't want to work with you, and I don't think my company does, right? If you're that uptight, and I think that we're shifting into a culture where maybe you are taking this phone call on the way to pick up your middle schooler. Good for you.
Right.
Good for you. But it's about setting those boundaries and knowing what I'm capable of. For me, I can sweep the floor and listen in on a call.
Right.
And my house has never been cleaner, and I don't feel guilty about it. Because chances are the guy that's on the other side of the call, the customer, might be playing Tetris, right? Or, everybody's got their own distractions. And it helps me in a way. If I can move around and sweep, it helps me kind of focus on what you're saying. I know that instead of staring at my thumbs or what do I do with my hands or whatever. But definitely those, those boundaries, and like giving myself some slack, right? I mean, it's fun to see you in your house and your dog barking and that you're a real person.
Totally.
So.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. So a lot of times what'll happen is I'll get a phone call. Now, I think I mentioned this on the one when I was talking with Mike. I could be sitting here working from like 8 a.m. till noon, like totally quiet in the house most days, just me. And the dogs will be laying down, sleeping. Everything will be so peaceful and quiet. And I always use these earbuds even when I get on a call. So if the second I get on a call and I say hello, all of a sudden, inevitably, without fail, every time the dogs jump up and all of a sudden they have to go out. So I can't tell you how many times I'll be sitting here at my computer, get on a phone call, and I'm like, oh, hold on. And I got to go run to let them out and come back to my call. And so that's just, I think those are the types of, you can't really set those boundaries. Those, I think, are natural distractions. Like, those are things that are just going to happen.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. They make you feel human. They make you realize that the other person you're talking to is just another human just like you, that nobody's above or beyond. We're just people trying to get by.
Yeah.
Let's talk for a minute about setting boundaries with clients or customers or bosses as far as when it's me time, when it's home time, when it's I'm not at work time. Like, what do you do to prevent those after hours calls or interruptions?
So awesome topic to bring up because I just recently got promoted, and I say promoted like it's landed on my plate, right? Like we're in a everybody's in a tough time where people are getting laid off, we're picking up the work that they would be doing, and we're not asking for raises, right? Like this is
Right.
the worst time to do that.
Of course
But
not.
my role has changed. I have a call tonight from 8 to 9 to go over customer projects because we need to be available to the customer during the day, and that's when everybody can do it. I work in all different time zones, so that's 5 p.m. for some of our folks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me time is I get to choose. Like if I want to take Friday afternoon off and I've worked 40 hours and I've given you 2 hours one night and two hours from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., like I've become really comfortable saying, I'm putting this on the calendar at 2:30 on a Friday that I'm not available. And as long as I look out for the interest of my company, check with things that I need to check on, right? And I'm still semi-available, I'm even okay having me time during company time, right?
Right.
Because that's what the term flex means. Um, but if I'm expected to maybe be available during the evenings and weekends, if something like this is going on, I block out time. If I don't want, if that's, you can't hang out with, you can't get me on the phone right now. This is the time I've reserved to cook Owen dinner. And this is the time I've reserved to go get food for the house, because it is really easy. 5 o'clock rolls around, you're getting your stuff ready and you get an email. You're on the phone emailing people for another hour sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I've made it a point that as long as I'm communicating that to my team on my calendar, then if I don't pick up during that time, that's not on me, right? I've let them know ahead of time. I mean, how do you sort of ensure that you do that when you're sort of running the show over there?
Yeah, that's a good question. The one thing I think you kind of alluded to it, and I loved it, was that um, if there's something that I need to do during the day, when most of my clients, see, I'm dealing with clients who are also small business owners. I mean, that's who I deal with. It's for me, it's just B2B. Um, and what I'll do is I'll book time in my Google Calendar, and I'll just put like, it, if I block it off in my Google Calendar, then if somebody tries to book a time with me, like it doesn't show that I'm available for those times. Like that, if I have 12 to 3 blocked, from like 11 to 4, nobody can book an appointment with me. Like I have that hour buffer before and after set.
Yeah.
So I have to be really diligent about making sure that if last week I went to give blood, right? It's a whole nother story, a whole nother queasiness that I don't even want to talk about ever again. But I went to do this, right? So the one thing I had to make sure, because we were going to go do it in the morning, was to actually block off, 2.5 hours in my calendar just to give myself that buffer that nobody could interrupt me during that time. Now, I do get the rogue phone call. I do check email periodically during those times that I've blocked off. And it's really difficult for me to see that it's a customer calling and not answer. And if it's during the day and I can answer it, I will. The bigger thing happens a lot of times. I'll work at night sometimes, like after we put the baby to bed at night, and then my wife Devin, will go off to bed, and I'll sometimes come back and sit here, and I'll be like super productive from like 9:30 at night to 2 in the morning. But sometimes I'll be working on a client project at 10:30 at night, and it just so happens that the client is wherever they are, and they realize that I've done something for them, and they think it's time to text or time to call, and those are times like no, like that's sometimes I just ignore it and I wait till the next morning, and then they're the first person I contact the next morning, and I'm like, sorry, and they're like, oh, I figured you were up working on my stuff, I'd talk to you. And like, not really how it works. Like, I'm up working on your stuff because I didn't have time during the day, but it's my company, and as long as your stuff's getting done, then we're happy, right? So
Right.
So I haven't had any clients get um, annoyed at that, like if they can't get a hold of me at 10 o'clock, but I have had clients reach out to me. And I don't, it doesn't really bother me because I can let those go. But at the same time, I do try to let them know, like, hey, yeah, I was working late at night because I had all these things to do, but typically I won't be able to respond.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, do you ever get that where it's just like after hours, you're trying to do personal and somebody's still blowing up your phone with a text when they shouldn't be?
Yeah, I mean, it's so like I said, I work in different time zones. So 6:30 for me is not even quitting time for somebody in Colorado, and my company
Right.
is based out of Colorado. So, I get a call here and there asking about something, and they'll go, "Oh, like," and I don't think they're like, "Oh, let's wait until it's 6:30." I
Of
don't.
course not.
Of course, but I realize that like nobody, it doesn't say anywhere like if I'm out to lunch or if I'm at Crave and I'm taking my break that I'm allowed to take as a human being to sit and relax and just clear my head. It's okay for 30 minutes if I don't answer it, or it's okay if an email comes in and they're like, do you have time for a call? Like, I've learned that if that yes, I can tend to those things, but I get really resentful if I end up making myself too available because I'm a very much I want you to like me. I want you to know I'm grateful to be your account manager or to work for you, right? And a lot of times that people pleasing can lead to doing things when it's really not the best time for me, and then just sort of being annoyed and like having an attitude alone, but like, it makes my job less pleasurable. And when I set those boundaries, as uncomfortable as it is, to not reply or to say, you called me and I hit the decline button because I'm going into a conversation and I don't want to think about this right now. Um, I always feel better the next day that I set that boundary because it teaches people that you sometimes aren't available. And in the
Right.
past, I've taught people if I'm at my wedding, give me a call if you have an emergency. You're more important than me. And what I've realized is when you let people know that you're equally as important and everybody's got a life and not every time is a good time, even if you're a client, even if you're a boss, I feel more respected. I respect myself more, and I'm
Yes.
happier with the work that I do because I'm not focused on. I got a personal emergency text message, but I'm trying to do this job, and so I'm kind of doing it halfway because my mind's not totally there. But I need both people to like me, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Um, so that's my experiences.
Gosh, we're so alike in the fact that I agree that I think if you're always at somebody else's beck and call, people start to expect that, and they treat you more as like their employee,
Right, and
rather
not a
than
coworker.
right, and not a colleague or coworker.
Right,
And it's a really, I think that's a lesson that a lot of people probably, or some, not a lesson, but I think that's something that a lot of people probably deal with and a lot of people go through. And I have fallen guilty of that people pleasing too, where I have several clients that pay me good money, and I sometimes feel like, well, I have to answer their call, and it's like they also have to realize that I have other clients, but you can't tell that to them because then you're being rude. So you have to come up with the ways to say it, and still, and I think you nailed it. Like that, you have to kind of set that up front. You kind of have to
right,
say like, you know, if maybe like during the onboarding, you get a new client or a new account, maybe you say like, um, if you ever need to get a hold of me, just click this link and set a time, and you will have my ear, you will have my schedule, you will be my priority for that time. um,
right,
and also just know that if you just reach me out of the blue, um, if it's mission critical, send me a text. But if you're just calling just out of the blue for something you just thought of, and I don't answer, just leave a message, or I'll get back to you when I can. I think
Right.
setting expectations is how you kind of nailed it. You said it better than I reiterated it, I think.
And what we tell some of our clients is, we have consultants, right, that will go on site and help with an implementation or business process review. And the consultants, right, that's not their only client, right? That's not the only person that they help. But sometimes they think that one project, if you have a consultant assigned to you, that's the only project they work on, right? So that 1 week out of a month that you use them, that's which
Yeah.
isn't realistic. But what I tell them is, when you email a consultant, remember that somebody else is paying them to be on site that week. And because we respect the time that we're selling to you, it would be wrong for a consultant, right, to be on another customer site helping a client, right,
Right.
on
Sure.
the side. So I try to convey that, like, if you don't hear from me, it's because we're respecting what our clients have purchased, including you. And that's the 24-hour email. It's not that we don't want to work with you. It's just, if somebody is in line at a dealership and they're getting their car worked on, the service guy doesn't say, "Well, you need me right now. Let me just go out in the parking lot and check your hood." But I'm going to
Yes.
charge this guy for 2 hours of labor, right? And I think when you let people know, like, if this is what you should expect, and also if you're used to getting, in my opinion, if you're used to getting a lot of folks kind of pinging you for emergency stuff, even having an email when you're busy that day, or if this is urgent, try this, even kind of letting them know, like, this is how you need to handle working with me. Because a lot of times I can put my expectations of, I would not wait that long to reply to that email. And I'll put what I would do onto this person or that person.
Right.
When we're all different and we all need to learn how to work together, but it is a little difficult when you're telling a client, hey, you're not the only person, in this store,
Yeah.
right? Especially when you're remote, because when you work in the industry where you go in and people can see that you're busy, they're like, oh, I would never walk up and interrupt them in the middle of a conversation. But how do you know? How do you know if I'm busy if I'm in my house all day and I don't tell you? How do you know you're being rude? How do you know you're interrupting a call, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you don't know you're being inconsiderate if nobody tells you were inconsiderate. It's like you just don't know, or people just don't
do not
know. They don't
disturb.
know that they are.
Oh, I know your thing said do not disturb and in a meeting, but I thought I'd just text you and email you and call you. And people forget that that's still a disruption.
Right.
So those are hard. Growing technology, now it's personal and work. People can interrupt you if they try hard enough.
If they try, yeah, it's that pattern interrupt that just break through. Well, that I think those are really good. So what did we talk? Well, let's recap a little bit. We talked about using a calendar system or Google Calendar to block time.
And personal time too. And if you don't want people to know what you're doing, I just put firm appointment. Like, it's not changing. You're not asking me to push this out. Firm appointment. Then people don't know what you're doing. You've got your privacy, but they know that you're busy.
Yes, like it. That it's human and normal to be distracted when you're working from home, and it just shows you as a human to your clients, customers, or colleagues. And what else? Let's recap some other things. What else did we talk about? Talked about after work time, personal life. I think we covered the gamut on the balance.
Yeah.
Did we miss
Just
anything? Was there anything else you were
setting
thinking?
expectations,
Setting
like,
expectations.
hey, but I guess that kind of falls into the calendar thing. But just, with new clients, especially, those expectations of, how to contact you and what's appropriate and what's not.
Perfect. I just realized that even though we're streaming to a page, a group, and a YouTube, that I didn't set my personal profile as another place to stream, and that's where I was getting most of the comments last week. So that's why we didn't have a lot of the viewers or comments. But this is gonna stay live forever, and I hope that if somebody's watching this on the replay, welcome, and feel free to comment, and I will write you back, and I'll let Cindy know that somebody had a future comment for this. So, so my bad on not sending it out to my personal friends, but maybe I'll share it on my Facebook profile and see what happens. But Cindy, thank you so much for joining me during quarantine Tuesday. What is today? Wednesday.
I think so.
Somebody posted something on Facebook. They were like, "Welcome to Mon Tuesday. It's the 49th day of April, May, or something." I was like, "That's perfect."
I was like, I have a reason to brush my hair today. That's how. I mean, it's like I think I need to start setting her like, don't forget to brush your teeth. Like, don't forget to like, take the trash out. But yeah, those are I have no idea. I think it's Wednesday though.
It is. But it's every day. It's taking me like literally 30 to 40 seconds to actually be like, what day? Or I look at my Google Calendar, because usually that'll be like, it'll pop up to the day it is. But guess what? Now we're just saying goodbye to everybody, and I've got 2 people jumping on. So whoever the 2 people are on, thanks for showing up. Way to take one for our team.
Dude, but it's like the greatest hit that never got played.
That's right.
We can replay it in the future because the cloud.
That's right. The 2 people watching this, you're going to want to go back and watch this from the beginning. So
It was the best live feed ever. I could have talked in the British accent the whole time and nobody would have even noticed. Been really awesome. Good practice.
I would. Whoa! Wait a minute. All right, what do we got? Thanks for the content, Jay. Matt Everhart. Thanks, Matt. Good to see you, buddy. And
I don't know you, Matt, but appreciate it.
Love it. So, Matt, Matt
works for all this is over in real life.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt works for a family puzzle company. They've got to be crushing it right now.
A family puzzle?
Like jigsaw puzzle company. Like
dude, that's all people can do right now.
I know. You guys better be crushing it, Matt. So anyway, Matt's a good friend. He's from Winston-Salem. He was in a networking business.
I'm in Advance, so
yay.
You might actually know where that is. I have to tell people, like, you know where Tanglewood is? And everybody's like, yeah. And I'm like, it's near there.
It's near there.
So
cool. Well, Cindy, thanks so much. I had fun. And
me too.
Hopefully some people got something. Matt just said, yes, we are slammed. It's a great problem to have. And if anybody, and now we got dogs. Awesome.
This is real life.
That is real life. And that was pretty much the topic of the call, how to separate real life from work life. Thanks for jumping on, Cindy. I will talk to you very soon.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Bye.